Picture this. It's 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in Riverside County, California. Officer Derek Paulson has been on the force for 12 years. Decorated, trusted, the kind of cop who coaches Little League on weekends and volunteers at the local food bank every Thanksgiving. His locker at the station is covered with Commendations Officer of the Year 2019, 2 life-saving medals, a certificate of valor for pulling a family out of a burning minivan on Interstate 115. In 90 seconds, he's going to make a decision that will cost him his career, his family, his freedom, and his soul. But here's what makes this story different. Derek didn't start the night planning to become a criminal. None of them ever do. He didn't wake up that morning and think, today's the day I throw away everything I've worked for. He kissed his wife goodbye. He hugged his daughter. He put on the same uniform he'd worn proudly for over a decade. He was still, in his own mind, one of the good guys. What you're about to hear isn't just another cop gone bad story. This isn't about a dirty cop who got greedy or a bad apple who slipped through the cracks. This is about the exact moment a man realized he'd crossed a line he could never uncross. The moment the radio crackled with words that made his blood run cold. The moment he understood that the truck he just let drive away, the one he was paid to ignore, contained something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Stay with me, because this case has more twists than a California mountain road, and I promise you, you will not see the ending coming. Not the first twist, not the second, and definitely not the final revelation that changes everything you thought you knew about this story. Let's rewind 6 hours. 8:00 p.m. Shift briefing at the Riverside County Sheriff's Station, Building C, 3rd floor. The room smells like burnt coffee and the industrial cleaner they use on the floors. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead, casting that familiar institutional glow that every cop in America knows. Derek Paulson sits in the back row like always, coffee in hand, black, 2 sugars from the pot that's been sitting there since 4 p.m. scrolling through his phone. He's looking at a picture of Emma, his 15-year-old daughter, from last weekend's hiking trip to Joshua Tree. She's smiling, her arm around him, both of them sunburned and happy. That was before the latest test results came back. Before the doctors used the word urgent 3 times in one conversation. His Sergeant Maria Gonzalez is running through the usual briefing. She's been doing this for 20 years, and she's got the rhythm down. Be safe out there. Watch for doers. Highway 91 has been a hot spot for street racing. We've had 3 accidents in the past week, all involving modified Hondas and Subarus doing over 100. If you see them, shut it down hard. Standard stuff. The kind of briefing Derek's heard 1,000 times. But then she mentions something that makes Derek's jaw tighten, makes his coffee suddenly taste like acid in his mouth. She clicks to the next slide on the projector, a blurry surveillance photo of a white pickup truck. Intelligence indicates a major shipment moving through our jurisdiction tonight. DEA's been tracking a crew out of Phoenix, part of the Sinaloa cartel's distribution network. We don't have specifics on timing or vehicle, but keep your eyes open. These guys are pros, they blend in. They follow traffic laws perfectly. They look like every other contractor truck on the road. She continues, her voice taking on that serious tone she uses when things are actually dangerous. If you spot anything suspicious, and I mean anything, call it in before you make a stop. These aren't 15 deputies, all paying attention, all looking focused and professional. What nobody knows, what nobody could possibly know, is that Derek's hands are sweating so badly he nearly drops his coffee. But desperation makes people do stupid things, and Derek Paulson was desperate. The text was simple, just 7 words. Tonight, white after 5:00. Don't stop it. No details. No explanation. Just that cold. His 15-year-old daughter, Emma, the girl who wants to study marine biology at UC Santa Barbara, the girl who volunteers at the animal shelter every Saturday, the girl who still hugs him goodnight. Insurance covers the basic procedure, sure, but the experimental treatment that could actually save her life, the treatment that has a 90% success rate instead of 60%, that's not. 6 months ago, Derek met a man named Caesar at Loma Linda University Medical Center, where Emma was getting tested. Caesar was in the waiting room, reading a newspaper, drinking coffee. He struck up people with resources, people who understood that sometimes good people need a little assistance getting through hard times. Derek should have walked away right there. Every instinct he developed in. But when you're watching your daughter slowly die, when you're lying awake at 3 in the morning calculating which bills you can skip this month, when you're one catastrophic diagnosis away from COM. Enough for the first round of treatment. Enough to give Emma a fighting chance. What's in the truck? Derek had asked. Caesar smiled. Does it matter? You're not going to open it. You're not going to. It was just insurance, just an option he'd never exercised. He was still a good cop. He was still an honest man. But tonight, with Emma's latest test results showing rapid deterioration with her NAFA, he sees Maria Gonzalez up front, 38 years old, 3 kids, been married to her high school sweetheart for 20 years. He sees Rodriguez, the rookie who just graduated from the academy, SDI. Would you make the same choice? Would you be strong enough to watch your child die when you had the power to save her? Would you be noble enough to keep your integrity intact while your family falls up? Lights work. Radio works. Computer boots up. Shotgun is locked and loaded in the rack. First aid kit is stocked. Everything by the book. He pulls out of the station at 9 o'clock p.m. sharp, heading east on H. But tonight isn't usual. Tonight, Derek's waiting for a white F250 that he's supposed to not see. The next 5.5 hours are torture. Pure psychological torture. Derek stops 3 speeders AI. But every white truck that passes makes his heart race. Every F250, every Silverado, every contractor-style pickup truck could be the one. And every time he sees one, he has to make a split second. The driver is a construction worker heading home from a late shift. Derek gives him a warning and sends him on his way, but the interaction leaves him shaking. At 2:15 a.m., he stops at a 7-Eleven for C. She's hanging in there, he manages to say. Thanks for asking. He sits in his patrol car in the parking lot, drinking the coffee, watching the occasional car pass on the highway. His phone buzzes. At 2:35 a.m., his phone buzzes again. Unknown number. The message makes his stomach drop. 12 minutes. Be ready. Derek's hands are trembling as he pulls back onto Highway 91. This is it. This is really. Doesn't that count for something? Doesn't that make it different? 2:47 a.m. Derek's cruising eastbound on Highway 91, approaching mile marker 52, near the Riverside-San Bernardino County line. Traffic. Then he sees it. White Ford F250, extended cab. Nevada plate starting with 7HX, doing exactly 65 in a 65 zone. Too perfect. Too careful. No contractor drives that precisely at a M unless they're. All he has to do is press the button. All he has to do is call it in. Dispatch. Unit for 147. Suspicious vehicle. Possible connection to the DEA operation. That's it. 6 seconds of speech. And he's STI. 6 months versus a normal life. That's the equation. That's what $20,000 buys. That's what one moment of cowardice purchases. Derek watches the F250 pass him. He doesn't turn on high. For 30 seconds, Derek feels something that might be relief wash over him. He made his choice. The hard part is over. $20,000 will hit his offshore account by morning. Caesar was very. Then his radio explodes with static, and Dispatcher Jenkins's voice cuts through the night. All units, be advised we've got a 211 in progress. Armed robbery at the Chevron station on hire. That's 5 miles west of Derek's current position. 5 miles west means the suspects are heading straight toward him. Straight toward the area he's patrolling. Derek's blood turns to ice. His vision. And they're loose because of him. They're getting away because Derek Paulson took a bribe and looked the other way. Someone might be dying at that Chevron station right now. Someone might be bleeding. Not even for his daughter's life. He destroyed it for absolutely nothing because he'd made a deal with the devil and the devil had lied. He'd sold his soul and the payment was worthless. Or so he. 6-liter V8 with 250 horsepower and 100,000 miles of hard pursuit driving Ross to life. The acceleration pushes him back into his seat. His shoulder injury from a bar fight he broke up to. He's got 12 years of pursuit training and the absolute certainty that if he doesn't catch these guys, if he doesn't fix this, his life is over. Not just his career, his life, his marriage, his Rella. Because how do you explain to your child that someone died because you were trying to save her? How do you look in the mirror knowing that your cowardice might have killed an innocent person? Unit 44. Do not engage alone. Repeat, do not engage alone. Suspects are armed and have already used deadly force. 12 minutes. In 12 minutes, these guys will be across the county line, out of his juris. The desert highway blurs past. The white line marking the shoulder becomes a solid streak in his peripheral vision. His training is screaming at this is wrong, that this violates every protocol. 400 yards, 300 yards, 200 yards. Derek hits his lights and siren. The night explodes in red and blue, the siren wailing like a banshee. The F250 doesn't slow down. It accelerates. 85, 95, 105, 110 miles. He has maybe a second to process what he's seeing before the muzzle flash lights up the night. 3 rounds punch through his windshield. The safety glass spiderwebs but doesn't shatter, designed to why. The third grazes his left shoulder, tearing through his uniform shirt and leaving a burning track across his skin. Derek jerks the wheel instinctively, nearly loses control. The Crown Vic fishtails are. It's not a deep wound, just a graze, but it burns like someone held a blowtorch to his shoulder. His ears are ringing from the gunshots. His heart is hammering so hard he thinks it might explode. His hands are shaking as he keys his radio. Shots fired. Shots fired. Unit 447. I have taken fire from the suspects. Eastbound 91, approaching mile marker 60. I'm hit but mobile. Suspects are actively S. And Derek's compromise, his one moment of cowardice, will have accomplished nothing except putting more blood on his hands. Negative, dispatch. I'm staying with them. The highway ahead forks. Inters. Nothing but darkness, sand, Joshua trees, and a whole lot of nothing. Smart choice if you're running from the cops. Bad choice if you don't know these roads. Derek follows, bleeding from his shoulder. He can't check it. He's doing 100 miles per hour on a winding desert highway in the dark, bleeding, chasing people who want him dead. But if he could check it, he'd see another text. Wrong truck. Too busy destroying his life while thinking he's saving it. And the worst part, he still doesn't know how wrong he is about everything. Mile marker 67, deep in the Mojave Desert. No streetlights out age. The truck's rear end starts to slide. The driver overcorrects, jerking the wheel hard to the right. Physics takes over. The F-50 fishtails violently, swaps ends, and starts to roll. Once, twice. There. Dust and debris fill the air, creating a choking cloud that Derek has to slow down to avoid. He skids to a stop about 50 yards back from the overturned vehicle, puts his car in park, and grabs his rad. But Derek can hear screaming from the overturned truck. Not angry screaming. Not the aggressive cursing of criminals who know they're caught. This is pain. Raw, genuine, terrified pain. Someone's who. Underneath all the corruption, underneath the compromise and the cowardice, there's still something in him that responds to the sound of someone suffering. It's the same instinct that made him portage. He gets out of his cruiser, drawing his service weapon, a Glock 22, 40 caliber, 15 rounds in the magazine and 1 in the chamber. His shoulder screams in protest as he brings the gun up to a read. Riverside Sheriff, show me your hands. Show me your hands now. His voice echoes across the empty desert. The driver's side door, now facing up since the truck is on its roof, is partially open. Samian. Blood is pouring from a head wound, running down his face, dripping from his chin. He's sobbing, not from fear but from pain and panic. Please, the guy says, his voice breaking. Please help him. Hands where I can see them. Get down on the ground. Now. The driver complies, dropping to his knees. Then his stomach, hands spread. Derek approaches, covering him, scanning for weapons. No gun Visi. Then Derek approaches the passenger side of the overturned truck, and what he sees makes him forget everything else. Makes him forget the gunshots, forget the chase, forget his own bleeding shoulder. He looks like he should be at a high school football game, not bleeding out in the Mojave Desert. A piece of the truck's frame, part of the roof support that collapsed during the rollover, has pinned high. Please, the kid whispers, his voice barely audible. I don't want to die. Please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please don't let me die. And here's where Derek Paulson faces his second impossible choice. 4 minutes is an eternity when you're 17 years old and staring at your own mortality. And Derek has to make a choice. Does he stay tactical, stay safe, keep his gun ready in case the driver somehow gets free or in case there's a third person in the truck? Or does he holster his weapon, cold enough to let someone suffer when you could help them? What could you do, knowing that either choice might haunt you forever? Derek holsters his weapon. He wedges himself into the overturned truck. I'm going to lift this, Derek says, his voice surprisingly steady. When I do, you're going to pull your legs out. Understand? The kid nods, tears streaming down his face. Okay, thank you. The frame rises 8 inches, maybe 10. The kid pulls his other leg free just as Derek's shoulder gives out and he has to drop the frame. It crashes down with a metallic boom that echoes across the D. That's when Derek hears sirens in the distance. Back up, finally. And that's when the driver speaks. We didn't rob anybody. Derek freezes, turns to look at the driver, still cuffed, still lying on high. Dispatcher Jenkins, all units, update on the 211 suspects from the Chevron station. Witnesses now report the suspect vehicle was a white Silverado, not an F-50. Repeat, Silverado, not F-50. Also, Sioux. None of it computes. Unit 447. Do you copy? Derek keys his radio with a hand that's gone numb. Copy. He just chased down the wrong truck. He just pursued at high speed through a dangerous pursuit. Just personal stuff. We weren't selling it. Maybe an ounce for the weekend. I thought if we could get to California before you stopped us, it'd be legal. I didn't mean. I never meant for any of THI. That was Matteo. The driver Luis. Derek will learn later. Luis Hernandez, 26 years old, works construction, has a daughter of his own, points at his brother with his cuffed hands. My brother. I didn't even know he had a gun. I didn't know. He just started shooting, and I couldn't stop him. Derek looks at Matteo, 17 years old, just graduated high school, was planning to study engineering. This is a broken kid whose brother came home from war, damaged and dangerous. A ticking time bomb that Derek's pursuit just set off. Backup arrives in a storm of lights and siren. 4 units, 8D. But he'll live. Luis gets treated for his head wound, 15 stitches, and then gets transported to the station for questioning. And Derek stands there in the desert dawn, watching it all unfold. No way. And somewhere, somehow, it's all about to come crashing down on him. But here's twist number 3. The catastrophe hasn't even started yet. 6:15 a.m. The sun is rising over the San Bernardino mountain. The doctor, a tired-looking woman in her 50s, tells him he's lucky another inch to the right and the bullet would have hit his brachial artery. He would have bled out in his patrol car. Lucky. Rick? In private, they step into an empty consultation room down the hall. Beige walls, generic landscape painting, a box of tissues on the table, always a bad sign. Gonzalez closes the door and doesn't sit. His heart starts hammering. How did you? Highway Patrol found it abandoned near Barstow at 4:30 a.m. The truck, Derek. They found the truck. You want to know what was in it? Derek can't speak. Can. Enough to kill half of Riverside County if it had made it to distribution. We've got you on traffic cam footage, perfect angle of you watching it drive past. We can see you looking right at it, Derek. This is where everything falls apart. Maria, I can explain, can you? Can you explain why you took money from a cartel to let drugs through our county? Because that's what this looks like, Derek. I didn't know. The EA's been investigating a leak in our department for 8 months. Gonzalez continues, relentless. Someone's been feeding information to the cartels. Someone's been letting ship me. Because what can he say? That he took the money, but it was for his daughter. That he didn't know the truck had drugs. That he thought it was a different truck. None of it sounds believable. None of it. When are you coming home? We miss you. Gonzalez sees his face change, sees something break behind his eyes. Her expression softens, just slightly. I know about Emma. I know about the treatments. You understand why understanding doesn't matter. Gonzalez's voice rises. Then she catches herself, forces it back down. Derek, there were other ways. Legal ways. The department has an emergency. You've donated to those fundraisers yourself. And that's when Derek Paulson truly breaks. Not because he's caught. Not because his career is over. Not even because he's going to prison. He breaks BEC. He destroyed his career, his integrity, his family's future, all for nothing. All because he couldn't swallow his pride and admit he needed help. Derek sinks into one of the chairs, puts his head in high. Then she sits down across from him, and her voice is gentler now. Derek, I need you to be straight with me. All of it. Every detail. Because right now, this looks really bad. This looks like premeditated. I know you're not a bad person. So help me understand how you became one. And that's when Derek tells her everything. About Caesar. About the hospital. About the initial approach 6 months ago. About. Gonzalez listens without interrupting. Takes notes. Records the conversation on her phone. When Derek's done, she's quiet for a long moment. The offshore account, she finally says. Did you set that? She scrolls through the conversation with Caesar's 6 months of manipulation, of pressure, of a predator slowly grooming a desperate man into compromise. This is good, Gonzalez says. Derek still took the money. He still let a drug shipment through. He still violated his oath. And worst of all, his attempt to fix it led to innocent people getting hurt. But wait, there's one more th. DEA agent Marcus Webb had been tracking a corruption network in Southern California law enforcement for 2 years. They knew someone in Riverside County Sheriff's Department was dirty intercepted comm. They approached 12 officers over 18 months, spread across 3 agents. Officers with sick family, officers with gambling, officers facing divorce and alimony payments, they see. 6 of them reported Caesar immediately, did exactly what they were supposed to do. Derek was the only one who said yes. And here's where it gets even worse. The fentanyl in that truck wasn't real. If Derek had stopped the truck, he would have been cleared. If he'd called it in, he would have been a hero.
But he didn't.
He took the money and looked the other way, exactly as Caesar's agent would K. And Derek, panicking, thinking he'd let armed robbers go, launched into a pursuit that was never part of the plan.
Luis and Mateo Hernandez were collateral damage in a sting operation gone wrong. That's the part that haunts him more than the conviction, more than the prison sentence, more than losing his career. Derek Paulson was charged with conspiracy to distribute narcotics accepting bribe. His defense attorney argued coercion, argued that Derek was targeted and manipulated, argued that his daughter's illness created a duress situation. The jury didn't buy it.
They deliberated for 6 hours.
Luis talked about his daughter asking why Uncle Mateo can't walk anymore.
Sarah Paulson, Derek's wife, sobbed through a statement about Emma asking why Daddy can't come home.
Then Derek made his own mess. I thought I was making one small compromise, one tiny exception.
Instead, I destroyed everything that made me who I was.
I hurt innocent people.
I betrayed my oath.